Ibrahim is wearing ripped jeans, a worn royal blue Chelsea soccer shirt with the name of the team's sponsor, Samsung, written in large white letters across the front. He holds his dusty blade casually against his left hip. Ibrahim was born in Mali and moved with his father to the Ivory Coast when he was little. He doesn't know how old he is, and he's never been to school.
A parade of younger boys, many of which are holding the same machetes, walk by Ibrahim on their way to the fields. Ibrahim sees them, stands up, and follows by. One of the boys was asked, who had been working for 5 years on this cocoa farm, was asked what he thought about people enjoying chocolate all around the world. "They are enjoying something that I suffered to make," he responded. "They are eating my flesh." I think we can all agree that slavery is bad, but most of us don't realize how truly prominent it is in many areas around the world today. It impacts everyone, including Kara and I, and even all of you, specifically within the products that we buy and consume. I know, for example, I really enjoyed chocolate, but before a few years ago, I didn't understand the impacts that it had on people all around the world.
There are many types of fair trade items on the market today to combat this forced labor. I can proudly say that the dresses both Milan and I are wearing today are ethically sourced. Until a few years ago, neither of us knew what labor trafficking was or how it affected us. For the rest of this presentation, we hope to educate you on what labor trafficking is and how you can change the world and do something to stop it.
Many large businesses use labor trafficking, an illegal method of collecting goods to cut costs. Large companies such as Hershey know that if they don't pay the workers at the end of the supply chain, then they can cut costs in the long run and inevitably make a bigger profit. Small chocolate businesses know that this isn't right, and they work with organizations such as Fair Trade to ensure that people on all levels of the supply chain are being treated fairly and are being given the proper pay that they deserve. For example, the picture of the lady on the left was taken by the organization that I mentioned earlier, Fair Trade, showing the positive effects of fair labor. The picture of the boy on the right shows the boy caught up in forced labor with being given little food, water, and is being treated in unstable living conditions through forced labor.
Sadly, the chocolate industry isn't the only one at fault. Labor trafficking, also known as forced labor, happens in almost every major corporation. It is defined as a modern form of slavery involving the control and exploitations of humans for profit, as defined by the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons. Labor trafficking is illegal, unethical, and a violation of human rights. It can be stopped by bringing awareness to the problem and pressuring companies to change their ways. Forced labor is a bigger problem than most people realize. As the Brown Journal of World Affairs estimates, there are about 21 million people currently trapped in labor trafficking. The industry also makes a lot of money. There's about $44 billion made illegally every year. With a problem growing this big, you simply have to ask, how does this happen and why does it fly under the radar? When answering this question, it's important to look into the fact that labor trafficking occurs most within countries that are underdeveloped and ridden with poverty. Young men and women will be lured into working onto these illegal farms with little food, water. They will be promised food, water, and a place to live. Parents will send their children away in hopes that it will provide them with an education and a stable income. However, when these people arrive, they figure out that these promises are incredibly misleading. They are under the constant threat of violence and absolutely cannot escape. Most people aren't even aware that these horrible human rights violations even happen, which is the biggest problem. While labor trafficking is more likely to happen in less developed countries, it happens all over the world. In this map, red and orange countries are more likely to contain labor violations, while blue countries are more likely to sell and buy products made with forced labor. And while most labor violations do happen overseas, it does happen in less extreme and more underground forms in the United States. For example, the United States Department of Labor publishes a list of goods made with either child labor or forced labor every year. The most recent list had 379 items on it. That's 379 places where human rights are currently being violated.
For a problem as large scale as this one, just as large solutions have to exist. For example, organizations such as the International Justice Mission work with providing awareness and money for human trafficking. They are most known for raiding illegal farms and rescuing and rehabilitating victims. Other organizations, such as the International Labor Organization, work with other countries and their governments in order to sign bills that put a stop to labor trafficking within that country or make the laws within labor stricter. There are many other small organizations, such as the End It Movement, Free the Slaves, and Hope for Justice. On all these websites, there is more information on labor trafficking and how you can help prevent modern-day slavery.
Neil Hodge, an author with Risk Management, explains that in practical terms, experts say the surest way to tackle human rights violations in the supply chains is to simply find out more about where you are sourcing from. Many popular companies that we support today use forced labor or child labor. Nike, Hershey, Starbucks, Disney, Apple, Haribo, and Kraft, to name a few. All of these businesses knowingly use child labor or forced labor and are completely fine with doing so. So we encourage all of you to do research before you buy products. Think of any major raw material. There's most likely no legal industry around it. Another easy way to help those in trafficking is to contact government officials on changing laws to make it impossible for companies to violate these human rights.
Take the Harkin Angle Protocol, for example. The 2001 legislation was simple. 8 of the U.S.'s largest chocolate companies were to put forth $2 million into ending the worst forms of forced labor within their supply chains. However, when the 2005 deadline came and none of these companies had put a single effort in towards allocating these funds, the deadline was then extended. 2005 became 2008, which later became 2010, then 2011, followed by no deadline at all. The government knows this is going on, and we can help make the change to enforce these laws. More recently, however, there's been more successful legislation. Take the California Transparency Act, for example, which forces large businesses to release their sources to the public, making it relatively easy for people to educate themselves on whether or not a business uses forced labor. Additionally, another organization that happens specifically within Indiana is IPAC. This organization has a police force that is dedicated to stopping forced labor within Indiana. These organizations have the potential of growing far beyond where they currently are at the moment.
Now, I'm hoping you agree with us that the cost to end trafficking is a good one. It's incredibly easy to get involved and make changes. For example, large businesses such as IKEA are able to thrive economically whilst using ethically sourced products. Walk into their restaurants and you see posters and signs all over the place educating their customers on where they're sourcing from and why it's important to be fair trade.
It's incredibly easy to educate yourself on whether or not businesses use forced labor. For example, I got this necklace and these earrings in a company called Rialto 79 on an island off the coast of Venice, Italy. They were imported from Murano, and all of these items were harvested and processed within Italy to make these products under fair labor conditions. Additionally, writing letters to congressmen and congresswomen have the possibility of being effective. Lastly, when trying to prevent human trafficking, simply informing your friends and family is the most important and crucial step. You can also spread the words by means of social media.
Now imagine, it's been a long day. You're tired, hungry, and really just craving some chocolate.
Easy enough, right? Walk over your pantry, kitchen counter, or simply pull it beside your back pocket. While enjoying your delicious treat, do you ever stop to wonder where it was made?
Before that chocolate got in your hands, it was most likely harvested illegally at a farm. Please help us in the fight to end modern-day slavery. Thank you.